and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He's the author of several books, no other than Mr. Michael Harris.
Hi, Daniel. It's great to be back again and to be talking to you again about another book.
Yes. Welcome, Mr. Michael. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. Um, my name's Michael Harrison. Um, I kind of got this little funny thing, Daniel, so I'm going to throw it out there. I can be kind of wacky sometimes, but I have this dream of jumping over a creek with a pogo stick. I don't know why, but this idea came to my mind one day. But then I thought, well, maybe I'll watch somebody else do it first, right?
Yes.
I live in the mountains of Oregon. I'm up in a bunch of creeks and mountains and ravines, and I just love doing that. And I love books. That's the thing, Daniel. I really like books.
Likewise. So, what is the expert success solution and what is the core objective in improving both business and personal
Yeah,
life?
yeah. Great question. Let me give you some brief history. Rick Frischman and Wendy Lipton Dipner are the primary authors of the book. And I
Yes.
met Rick. This background I think is kind of important. I'd gone to New York for a press event back in 2011, and I met this gentleman named Rick. And I didn't know who he was. And we started talking, and this is before I published my first book, Falling Down, Getting Up. And I started talking to Rick about this book at this press event. And he said, "Can I publish your book?" And I said, "Well, who are you?" And he says, "Well, I'm Rick Frischman. I'm a publisher with Morgan James Publishing," and on and on. And he had published a whole bunch of high profile individuals, both celebrities and political. And I found this out later when I looked him up. So he got me my first book deal. And then I released the Falling Down, Getting Up book. And Rick came to me and said, "Hey, when Wendy and I are going to write this other book, and we would like to invite you to be part of this book because of who you are and what you do, and to contribute to it." So I got really excited about this book. We have something like 34 endorsements that we had coming out of it. Even people like George Hamilton, the actor, Thomas
Yes.
Baylor, which is a creative composer. He was Michael Jackson's voice coach. A gentleman named Smidgen Mori out of Europe, and he's kind of like the Tony Robbins of Europe. Tom Antion, which is a marketer, many people may have heard of him. Even Mary Morrissey, which is author, speaker, founder of Brave Thinking Institute. So and I could go on and on just talking about all the incredible people that were attracted to this book. But Rick really wanted, for what I was doing, this idea came up that I've worked with a lot of people in essentially reinventing themselves. And as we were talking, this idea of innovative reinvention came up. And Rick said, "That's what I want you to write about, is how somebody can reinvent themselves in their own way."
Mm, yes. That's why this book is an international bestseller, people. And thank you so much for sharing to the world, Mr. Michael. And we are looking forward for follow-up for this book.
Well, let me tell you, this book, when I talk about the innovative reinvention, I use one of my clients as an example. Can I mention her?
Yes, definitely. Go ahead.
Her name is Sally, and she was married and had a child, but was unhappy. Which, it's so easy to be in a place where we're unhappy with life. And she really wanted to be an example to her younger daughter about not settling and finding a way to really live a good life. And so she ended up uh, divorcing her husband and, really going after what she wanted to do, which was to own a yoga studio, right?
Wow. Yes.
So she came to me as a client and we started talking about, the different really ways and steps that somebody can really follow in life what they want to do. So I helped her lay out 10 steps for herself on what to do. And that's outlined in um, what I wrote up here about the reinvention that really anybody can use too. But it's just 10 simple steps. And I can mention a few of them or all of them if you like.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Michael.
Well, one of the things, and I've done a fair amount of this over the years, is I have 3-day trips where people come to me in Oregon and I work with them one on one for 3 days all day long. And the first step of this process, and which I mentioned in the book, is it's really important sometimes to get away from our normal environment. Sometimes, if we get stuck in our normal environment, it kind of holds us back. We need to see something new, something different. And for anybody that travels can probably appreciate that when we go to different places, it really enhances who we are. So the first step is a trip away from home and, really finding, a peaceful place. And I always suggest that people put their cell phone away. We live busy lives. We live in New York, we live in Dallas, wherever we live, and we just get so caught up in our busyness, and we got to have our phones with us all the time. And if we don't, we're like, oh my God, I got to go back home, I left my phone.
Mm.
Well, just leave it at home. you know we used to, growing up, we had the old party lines where if we picked up the phone, somebody else was on it, we couldn't talk, right?
Yes. Party
So
line.
I suggest that people, find a place and to get rid of their phone. And then, step two, um, what can you really let go of that no longer serves you? We all have things that don't serve us. It might be as simple as letting go of coffee. Coffee may not serve us. It may be as big as letting go of a relationship or leaving a job that no longer works for us. So I mean, it's going to be different for everybody. Um, what skills does somebody have? Oftentimes, we misinterpret that we don't have the skills to do something. Now, what I have found is we have all the skills that we need. It's just that we don't necessarily use them or understand how our skills can cross over from one situation to another situation. It's been talked about by so many different people. You know, being a mother is one of the most powerful skills that anybody can have, that they can develop. They have to manage the kids, they have to manage the household. That all relates to managing your own business or managing somebody else's business, just on a very simple area. So, and then what actions do you need to take to live your dream life? Well, I need to get rid of my coffee maker if I'm going to stop drinking coffee. Maybe I need to move. Maybe I need to do something else. Write a clear vision statement. What is it that you really want to do? And sometimes it's going back to childhood to really discovering what that vision is. Be the best you can be. What is it? What does it mean to be the best that we can be? How can we take each and every action, each and every day, to really be the best that we can be? Develop clear systems. One of the things that I learned over the years, Daniel, and you as a podcaster, I know you're very system oriented. That we need to have systems, and sometimes there's a perception that systems tie us down, where systems really free us.
Yes.
That there's a lot of freedom in systems. So learning about that. Keep your surroundings fresh and clean. So if you're messy, sometimes they say messiness is good. I don't know. I've done it both ways, Daniel. I don't know about you, but I've been really messy at times, and I've really been really clean and let go of things that I no longer needed, and found that when my environment is clean, my mind is cleaner, and I'm able to work better or play better, whatever the case might be. And then, of course, the last one is really celebrating your successes. How are you going to celebrate what you're doing? How are you going to celebrate your reinvention? How are you going to you know are you going to go out? Are you going to go on a trip? Are you going to go out to dinner with a friend? Are you going to take a day off from your normal routine and go skiing? What are you going to do? And each one of those steps, I have found, Daniel, are really important when we're looking for ways not just to live our lives, but perhaps to reinvent our lives, to let go of what no longer works. And I think we mentioned this, we talked a little bit about it before. Right now there's a lot of, I call it swirling energy in the world, and there's a lot of dividing lines and everything else. And for me, I believe that the closer we are to doing what we love to do, the better connections we're going to have with other people. Whether or not we have the same belief system or not doesn't matter, but we can connect on that level at a much better place, if we're living our life the way that we want to, the way our vision is, the way that we're led to do. But don't get me
Certainly.
started. I could go on for a long time, Daniel.
Certainly, Mr. Michael. So, what will be your advice for those people out there who want to find their success in life?
Well, the first thing is, you know, what I like to say is don't worry about it too much, and find that space. Just like I mentioned, the first step, I believe, is getting out of our normal environment. It might be going for a walk, it might be going for a hike, it might be going for 3 days to a cabin at the beach. It could be anything. It's just let it go and allow whatever else that there is there to come back. What is it that I really want to do? I really want to be a powerful example to my daughter. I really want to be a book author. I really want to help people with mental health. There could be so many different avenues, but be willing to step up and actually do it rather than later on regretting that we don't do something.
Yes.
Those regrets can be powerful. We For me, I think we need to let them go.
Let it go and live at the moment,
Yeah.
people. Please, because that's the rule of life. So, Mr. Michael Harris, what will be your short term and long term goals in writing?
Well, I don't know whether I mentioned it to you, but I've got another book coming,
Yes.
and
And
it came to me. A buddy and I were up in the mountains about a year and a half ago, and we don't hike trails very often. And we were up a ridge line, and there are trails around where I live, and national forest, etc. And we were kind of joking that trails are for tourists, right? And
yes.
so I talked to my publisher. I said, "What do you think about this book called Trails for Tourists? About really finding your own way in
Trails.
life." So,
Yes.
it's kind of like taking this concept from Expert Success Solution book, but expanding it out even more. It's like it's so easy to follow our own somebody else's trail that they have created and just follow that up and down. Well, why not just go off and go up your own ridge line and find your own trail? You know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Looking forward for that, Mr. Michael, and you are most welcome to come back
Thank
and
you.
let's talk about it. So, how does the solution incorporate technology or digital tools to facilitate progress in its 22 targeted areas in your
Well,
book?
yeah, yeah. Um, how does technology work? Let me make sure I get this right.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because this book came out in 2013.
Yes.
So the idea of AI, what wasn't really
Not
strong at
yet.
that time, or
Yes.
some of the technology. What I think is really powerful about this book, with the different stories and essays in it, is that each one presents something different, whether it's retirement or what would Einstein do, or conflict, or just the different things. What the spirit does not like in a box. So I can't say that there's a lot of um, technology. I will say that there's three critical things that Wendy Lipton Dibner mentions here too. Is how will doing what you want help you get what you want? Powerful question. What would keep them from being able to do what you want? So is there something keeping you from that? And what would really keep you from being willing? Because that willingness, sometimes we don't really have the willingness to do what we want. So I would say that it's not a lot of technology directly spoken in the book, but that doesn't mean that technology is not relevant and used by the people in the book.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So, what strategies does the solution provide for enhancing leadership and management skills?
Well, there's multiple um, answers to that, and what one of them is like partnership mistakes. Like how can you develop strong partnerships and avoid those mistakes? And the same kind of along that same line is learning to keep conflict from derailing your organization. And all these ideas can help somebody really, in addition, like you were talking about, the leadership is to develop your leadership. And there's some tremendous authors in here, big bold ambitions that Randy talks about, in the sense that um, Randy's very much a leadership person. Is what can we do not only in our own world to create these big bold ambitions, but as a leader, what can we do to help other people develop big bold ambitions as well? So it goes really both ways. A leader, in my experience, both as somebody, as a more of a kid, having a job for somebody else, and then later becoming my own business owner and having numerous employees, is that I found, as a leader, the more that I did to help that person um, do what they wanted to do, the better my business operated. And that even included helping people get jobs elsewhere if they found that their skills had got to a point that they would be better in a different environment. I tried not to hold on to somebody that wanted to move. I was okay with that. I was
Yes.
okay with helping them develop their skills to a point that maybe they could be a better service somewhere else, and that was okay.
So, Mr. Michael, how does the program help users overcome common obstacles and setbacks in both business and personal
Mhm.
life?
Well, I'll go back to the 10 steps that I mentioned, that, and these are all listed out in the book, and there's more information on each one of these steps, and how to do them, and even how to maybe adjust them a little bit for an individual's personal situation. So if you're listening, you can go in here and jump in here and really, tweak it for your situation. So by practicing these procedures and these steps, again, whether it's for personal, you know,
For
change,
business.
for personal reinvention, or for business reinvention, it applies.
Very well said, Mr. Michael. Very well said.
I like that audience you got, Daniel.
Yes, indeed. So, to wrap up our discussion for today, how does the expert success solution plan to evolve or expand its strategies to meet future challenges in business and life?
That's a big question, Daniel. And the best
Thank
way
you.
that I can answer that is, again, this book was written back in 2013, and this
Yes.
is 2025. And certainly the world has evolved. And at the same time, this book is still relevant out there. I mean, it's still being purchased out there. And people are still applying the principles. One of the things that I have found is that some principles, are endless. They go on for forever. And I'll just briefly mention my late brother Bill. He was involved in a book called The Secret. Many of you may have heard it. Some of you may not have heard it, but it's about the law of attraction and really taking action to get what you want to do. So all these different things, um, go on for a long time. The reason I mention that is because of the principles in that book, and the principles in the expert success solution. There's some similarities to it. I always had, from early on, I was telling Rick and Wendy, I said, these principles we are talking about may be presented different than the law of attraction principles and the way that they talk about it, but it's really the same thing, is really stepping up, creating what you want in your life, and going after it. And let me just mention one thing, Daniel. If we have an orange, or we want to have an orange, and we don't have an orange in our fruit bowl at home, we think, okay, if I get in my car and I drive to my store, they're going to have an orange, right? I'm
Yes.
going to go and attract that orange and get that orange. I'm going to go through the checkout and I'm going to exchange some money for that and walk out. And I'm going to fulfill what I just envisioned, having that orange. Now, what if we take that same simple principle and say, I want to live my life in this way? And we go out and we do it. It's the same process, right? So if we want something in life, it's no different than wanting an orange. It's just something different, right?
Yes.
Right. So just
Definitely.
going after it. So if somebody's listening here, know that you already know how to get what you want, because you do it every day. We do it every day. Every time we go to the grocery store, we're getting what we want. Well, most of the time, unless they're out of something. But
Certainly. So, Mr. Michael Harris, thank you so much for sharing your books to the world. And we are looking forward for more empowering books like this. As I said, please do come back and let's talk about your upcoming book. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
yes, one of the things I'd like to do for all the listeners today is, my main website is michaelbharris.com, but I have a little secret link. It's ess.michaelbharris.com, and that's Expert Success Solution, ess.michaelbharris.com. And you can go down there, you can go there and download actually a free copy of this book. Absolutely
Yes.
free.
Yes, people, absolutely free. So, Mr. Michael, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. It's a pleasure.
Modicon people, see you soon.